Captain Maratesh glanced at the viewport of the Aegis of Sol, watching the inky blackness of space drift by. Stars glimmered like distant beacons cold, indifferent witnesses to the grand tapestry of civilizations sprawled across the galaxy. She'd grown up hearing tales of humanity's humble beginnings, wooden ships braving storm-lashed seas, fragile wings of hot air balloons trembling against the wind. Now, aboard a state-of-the-art frigate, she felt the weight of that legacy. Humanity had stretched its reach into the stars, and the Aegis was its spearhead. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates," reported Lieutenant Janayans, her tactical officer. His fingers danced over the holodisplay, bringing up a 3D projection of the void ahead. A lone silhouette, the Xarathian cruiser Marish, drifting on a direct course that intersected theirs. "Enemy vessel?" Tesh asked, focusing on the projection. "Unmarked hull, but the transponder code matches Xarathian military registry. No escort drones in sensor range. Signature indicates frigate class, light armament standard cruiser shields." James's voice was calm, professional. Yet beneath it lay that spark of curiosity that every officer felt when confronted with the unknown. Tesh leaned forward, eyes narrowing. No escort. Shields at nominal strength. Vulnerability window. 30 seconds. Behind her, the bridge. Crew worked in synchrony. Humming consoles, the soft glow of status indicators, the rhythmic breath of the fusion reactors. Every human aboard the Aegis understood that complacency was a death sentence. They drilled for ambushes, simulated catastrophic failures, rehearsed boarding actions, yet they never lost sight of the elemental truth. To survive in space, you had to adapt faster than your enemy. "Helm, adjust Vector Alpha 3 for an intercept course," Tesh ordered. "Maintain silent running until weapons lock." The bridge fell silent, save for the subtle hum of the grav drive. The Aegis glided forward, her hull plates absorbing and reflecting starlight. Nearby, sensor arrays quivered, parsing every incoming particle, every flare of distant fusion flare to distinguish friend from foe. Lieutenant Cello of the Marish studied her own tactics board. The Xarathian cruiser, sleek and angular, epitomized the Empire's doctrine: speed, stealth, and decisive boarding actions. With humans rumored to be slow to respond, her plan was elegant in its simplicity. Disable the human shields with an initial pulse, then send in boarding teams to hijack the Aegis systems. No need for full-scale destruction when you could claim a prize one of humanity's prized. "Warships dot," she tapped her comms. "Commander Ivra, all boarding pods green. Prepare to launch on my mark." Ivra's voice crackled. "Excellent. Lock." Onto their signature. "When their shields falter, we strike." Back on the human frigate, the only indication of hostility was the sudden blink of red along the sensor banks. "Incoming energy spike at bearing 215, Jane Ann's announced. "Preliminary yield, enormous." "Phased laser burst?" Tesh murmured. "Raise shields to maximum. Distribute power away from non-essential systems, Helm. Communications. Life support remain, but everything else down." On the Marish, the Xarathian bridge crew exchanged high fives as their particle accelerator roared to life. Cello counted down on her wrist console. 3, 2, 1. The opening salvo flared across the void. A beam of pale emerald light lashed the Aegis, striking its dorsal shield emitters. For a heartbeat, the human vessel shuddered then. The shields flared brilliantly, absorbing and diffusing the energy in a shimmering dome. The Marish's tactical officers gaped. Xarathian beams normally shredded planetary defense arrays. "Shields holding at 95%, reported Jane Hens. But that yield was stronger than predicted. Ivra's image flickered on Cello's display. "Status?" she demanded. "Our attack?" "Did nothing," Cello stammered, wiping sweat from her brow. They've over-engineered those shields. On the Aegis, Tesh allowed herself a grim nod. All hands, prepare for evasive maneuvers. Helm, stand by to weave. Lieutenant Arjun at the helm engaged thrusters, twisting the ship in a graceful arc. The Aegis darted left, then right, an impossible dance of light against the starfield. The Xerithian boarding pods launched in response, magnetically grappling onto the frigate's hull like parasitic creatures. Boarding teams inbound at Deck 9 and Deck 11, Janans called out. They've penetrated outer hull in sections. Maraz. Hand clenched the railing. Marines to battle stations. Chief Engineer, reroute auxiliary power to point defense turrets. Deep within the Aegis spine, sparks and groans resonated as power conduits shifted. On Deck 9, armored Marines assembled, plasma rifles primed. They stormed through bulkhead doors, where Xerithian shock troopers had already begun breaching. Life support tunnels. Two sides clashed in the narrow corridor's plasma bolts streaking, energy shields flaring under Gauss rifle volleys above. The Aegis broadside turbolasers roared to life. Each cannon tracked and targeted the orbiting drones that had swarmed into range. Explosions bloomed like supernova as guided micromissiles arced from cargo holds, carving an open swath through the Xerithian formation. On the Marish, the bridge was pandemonium. Red alarms blared, screens flickered with error codes. Our drones 3 destroyed. Shields at 40%. Pride Cello. We're taking hull damage. Ivra's face contorted in rage. Fall back. Regroup at Vector Delta. Recall boarding teams. But the Marish's engines, or what remained functional, didn't respond in time. The Aegis commanding. Voice echoed over open channel. This is Captain Mara, Tesh of the United Earth Fleet. Cease hostilities and prepare to surrender, or be destroyed. Silence then static. Tesh didn't wait for an answer. Target the port engine. Long range. Penetration shot, fire. The turbolaser cannonite spun, and a cobalt blue beam leaped across the void. It struck the cruiser's port thruster module dead on. The Marish jolted violently as its engine erupted, sending it careening off its original course. Fire streaked. Down its nacelles, metal plating peeled away, and life support vents began to cascade depressurization. Excellent shooting, Tesh murmured, though her expression was solemn. Helm, maintain safe distance. Bring boarding pod Beta 3 with medical team to transport survivors. Even as the Xerithian boarding teams frantically fought their way back to evacuation pods, the crew of the Aegis worked to stabilize the cruiser's dying reactor. A second, more measured energy pulse from the human ship nudged the Marish into a controlled descent far enough to prevent any sudden implosion, but close enough that her crew would have no illusions about the Aegis dominance. Below on Deck 14, Lieutenant Cello floated in 0G, stripped of her uniform and cuffed to a bulkhead. Across from her, a human ensign pale with exertion studied her with cautious curiosity. You Xerithian? The ensign asked. Cello's jaw clenched. I was, she corrected. But now, her eyes flickered toward the glass viewport, where the Aegis hovered like a silent sentinel. Now I am your prisoner. Above the decks, Captain Tesh retreated to her ready room. She stood before a small, holographic globe of Earth, the pale blue dot that anchored every mission. The cost of victory, she knew, was never cheap. Lives risked, lives lost. Yet today had been necessary. Today had proven what humanity's forebears had always believed, that to stand against adversity, to adapt and endure, was the truest measure of strength. She keyed a message to Fleet Command. Marish disabled. Crew captured under ICC protocols. Shields at nominal. Propulsion systems intact. Recommend immediate diplomatic opening. Humanity's resolve proven. As the transmission cycled out, Maratesh allowed herself a moment's rest. The void beyond might be vast, but humanity's spirit was vaster still, and the galaxy would learn, in time, that a starship carrying human souls was never a simple target. 3 hours later, the crippled Marish lay tethered to the docking bay of the Zyrathian mothership Vorith's Pride, her hull a crumpled testament to the aegis of Sol's wrath. In the cold sterility of the detention hold, Lieutenant Cello drifted. In a field of artificial gravity roused only when the staccato hiss of airlocks announced a visitor. Energy cuffs bit into her wrists and ankles. The soft blue glow of their containment fields reminded her that she was no longer in command. Across the broad corridor, a pair of Marine guards flanked the entry. Their armor was familiar, yet alien-woven alloys that shifted color with the light. When the armored door slid open, Cello rose from the rumpled bench and stepped forward, chin high despite the restraints. In the interrogation chamber beyond, Captain Maratesh stood beneath a hollow projector that bathed the room in the pale light of Earth. It hovered, spinning slowly. Continents of green, deserts of amber, oceans of sapphire. A gentle pulse of data rippled across the globe, tracing major population centers. Cello's gaze flicked from the Earth to Tesh and back again, unspoken curiosity flickering beneath her fatigue. Lieutenant Cello, Tesh began, voice measured. Welcome to the United Earth Fleet's flagship interrogation suite. She gestured at the spinning hologram. This is home. Cello's jaw tightened. You'd show off your home planet to your prisoner? Tesh inclined her head. I want you to remember who holds dominion over you now. 300 years ago, Earth's nations laid aside their differences to face extinction-level asteroid impacts. They rebuilt through cooperation, innovation, and a refusal to surrender. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't our ships or our weapons. It's our capacity to learn from every crisis. She stepped closer, arms folded. You see only a fragment of our power here. Imagine the full fleet. Cello's breath caught. The hollow earth pulsed like a living heart. Your fleet, she whispered. Vast, Tesh confirmed. Hundreds of vessels, all at peak combat readiness. We cannot lose. Every engagement is a lesson. Every failure a catalyst for improvement. Behind the scene, the chamber's side panel slid open, admitting a slender figure in lab whites. Dr. Mrak, chief engineer of the Voriths. Pride, his mandibles flexed in subdued excitement as he rolled forward a containment crate. Captain, he said, his voice a curious blend of menace and awe, you requested a demonstration of human engineering. I offer remnants of their boarding drone. He tapped the crate's controls, and a transparent lid slid back to reveal a mass of twisted metal and fused circuits. Tesh nodded to Mrak, and with a flick of her gauntlet, the hollow projector reframed Earth receding, the drone's wreckage magnified. Blueprints of its circuitry and alloys traced across the air, projected in stark white lines. Cello frowned. That drone was built by your own hands. Mrak's carapace rippled. No, this design is alien. The alloys, the circuit topology, the power coupling, none of it matches Zyrathian standard. Your ship disassembled it with ease down to submicron tolerances. He probed the wreckage with a hovering stylus. Each data point registered and fed back to his console. It self-repairs at the molecular level. Its core capacitor regenerates in under 30 seconds. Tesh let the words linger. We like to outthink our enemies, she said. We design systems that adapt on the fly like living creatures. Your cruisers may carry superior numbers and brute force, but your designs are static. They can be studied, circumvented, and destroyed. Cello's eyes narrowed. You're telling me you anticipated our tactics. Not just anticipated, Tesh replied. We simulated 1,000 variations of your boarding maneuvers. We ran them against 24 defensive algorithms. By the time you engaged, we knew where you would strike, how you would breach, and how to counter it. You thought attacking a lone frigate was simple, but simplicity is deceptive. Cello exhaled, frustration mingling with reluctant respect. Your arrogance is impressive. Arrogance? Tesh tilted her head. Perhaps. But ask yourself, would you have done anything differently, knowing what you now know of us? Silence followed. Cello's gaze fell to the floor. No, she admitted, then corrected herself. Yes, I would have stayed away. The chamber doors slid open again. 2 aides in crisp uniforms entered, carrying slender trays of nutrient packs and medical scanners. Tesh raised a hand. Lieutenant, you'll be treated under the Geneva Conventions. Your wounds will heal. Your mind will remain intact. In exchange, we ask only 3 things: truth, cooperation, and an end to your empire's misguided ambition. Cello surveyed the meal before her gel packs she had long forgotten tasted so alienly sweet. She swallowed. I will speak, she said quietly. But not for you alone. I need to know, will my crew be safe? Tesh's stern expression softened. Under our protection. They will be repatriated or exchanged once the Empire acknowledges. Their error. She turned to her companion. Arrange quarters to hold Cello's team. Notify diplomatic corps to draft the communique. As Tesh departed the chamber, Cello sank onto the bench, the weight of defeat heavy in her limbs. Overhead, the drone's blueprint continued its silent rotation, a stark reminder that humans saw conflict as a teacher, not just a contest of force. In the massive salvage bays below, Dr. Rock orchestrated teams of Zarathian engineers and Ablar tech specialists. The wreckage from the floating drones cluttered the floor like metallic seaweed. Under his direction, laser cutters delicately harvested alloy samples. Nanoprobes traversed fractured circuits. Hushed voices spoke of the drone's regenerative plating, energy densification cores, and self-repair nanofibers. Each revelation crackled like static electricity, igniting debates on whether the Empire could replicate such living technology, or whether, in trying, they would merely bastardize it. Rack glanced at his lead technician, a young Ablar woman with copper-toned eyes. We can reverse engineer the shielding weave, but without the AI substrate, it will be inert. Like a body without a soul. The technician hesitated. Then, we face a choice. Continue our war machine with inferior copies, or seek an alliance with the humans to learn at their source. Rack's mandibles quivered. An alliance? After they crippled the Marish? Their terms will be demanding. Innovations always come with demands, she replied. But stagnation is worse. As the salvage teams toiled, word of the humans' mercy spread through the corridors. Prisoners who expected purge now found rations, medkits, even clean uniforms in their cells. The Empire's soldiers, once fueled by hatred, now whispered doubts. Was this the mark of genuinely superior beings? Or a trap? Fear and fascination warred within them as they tasted humanity's code. Adapt, learn, but never relent. Back aboard the Aegis, Captain Tesh watched the docking clamps disengage from the Marish. In the ready room's dim light, she reviewed sensor logs of the battle frame by frame, every pulse, every maneuver. She paused on the sequence where the Helix pulse array first ignited, a shimmering spiral of energy that cut the boarding drone. Into molecular fragments, the image glowed, triumphant. A soft chime announced an incoming message. Commander Lin of Fleet Command. His image stabilized on the view screen. Captain Tesh, your guests have been secured. Intelligence suggests the Zarathian Empire is fracturing at the seams over this encounter. Some factions call for retaliation. Others call for peace. Tesh nodded. I'll brief the diplomatic envoy when they arrive. For now, we press the advantage. Gather allies from the coalition worlds, those who value stability over conquest. Humanity's offer of membership will stand. A council where all voices matter, not a conquest for dominion. Lin tapped his helm. Understood. We'll dispatch the envoys. Congratulations on a flawless operation, Captain. She allowed herself a small smile. Thank you, Commander. But the real victory will be when old grudges die in the light of new possibilities. As her comms panel clicked off, Captain Tesh turned back to the viewport. The Marish drifted free of the mothership. Her battered silhouette soon lost in the silent expanse. Yet even in ruin, she bore witness to something greater. A galaxy waking to the truth that humanity did not conquer through sheer force of arms, but through the relentless power of innovation and the unwavering hope that even enemies could become allies under the watchful gaze of a shared star. A veil of static-lit corridors wove through the neutral station Aurelia's Rest, its architecture a muted blend of Gorn basalt, Vicorian crystalline panels, and Oblar biofilaments. Here, in these common halls, ancient rivals found an easy peace butt. Word of the aegis of Sol's ferocity had shattered complacency. Now, hidden behind forged identities and encrypted channels, representatives of three mighty polities gathered to forge the galaxy's first true anti-human coalition. One. Shadows behind closed doors, in a private chamber carved from polished obsidian, Senator Jar of the Gorn Alliance leaned his heavy frame against the wall. His crimson carapace glistened under the lamplight. Across from him sat Ambassador Rollith of the Vicorian hegemony, sleek and tall, every gesture measured. Beside them, Consul Relix of the Ablar Consortium observed both, mandibles gently quivering in thought. Jar's voice rumbled like distant thunder. The humans survived our ambush with negligible casualties. Their helix pulse array disintegrated. Our boarding drones molecularly, not just at the macro level. They adapt mid-combat. They learn. Rollith allowed a sardonic smile. Our initial analysis confirms it. On-site nanits reforge breaches in under seconds. Their AI anticipates maneuvers before their pilots commit to them. If unchecked, they could render every conventional fleet obsolete within months. Relex's tone was chilly, diplomatic. Reports from Zarathian salvage crews indicate they're reverse engineering fragments of human tech. Already, our shared star lanes, Senix Corridor, Delta 5 trade route, have sightings of unregistered sensor beacons. They're scouting hyperspace lanes, mapping choke points. Jar bared his teeth. They're preparing for war. We cannot wait until humanity's full armada appears. We must strike first coordinated, decisive. Rollith tapped a holodisplay, projecting a map of the Perseus Rift. Here, in the Rift's dead zone gravity distortions mask sensor readings, it's perfect for an ambush. We deploy 8 cruisers, 3 Gorn dreadnoughts, 2 Oblar shock, frigates, and 3 Vicorian stealth corvettes. We lure the humans with a false distress beacon, then crush them under concentrated fire. Relix nodded. Agreed. But if we wait too long, if the humans win another skirmish, they'll consolidate. An even larger coalition. We strike within the fortnight. Rollith rose, extending his hand. To the Triune Pact. Jar and Relix clasped it in turn, their grip sealing a silent oath. In that moment, treaties, old alliances, even the Empire's fragile unity shattered. In service of a singular goal, find the human weakness and exploit it. 2. Ghost lights on the edge hundreds of light years away. Aboard the Aegis of Sol, Dr. Evan Caillot reclined in his lab's observation bay, reviewing long-range sensor sweeps. The rift's periphery should have been empty, but faint energy pulses danced across the void ghost stations, unregistered and covert. Captain, Ko hailed overcome, voice tinged with excitement. I'm seeing multiple sensor clusters. No. Official transponders. They match Zerithian codec signatures, but the modulation is erratic. It's as if they've grafted Oblar Takin dampers onto Zerithian relay nodes. Mara Tesh stood beside him, arms folded. Ghost stations. She murmured. They're mapping hyperspace currents, creating private choke points. If they control the jumping points, they control movement. Keo's eyes gleamed. Exactly. They're planning something. And I doubt it's diplomatic. Tesh nodded. Lieutenant Janons, plot those coordinates. Send drones to covertly inspect. No direct engagement. This is intelligence gathering. As the tactical officer complied, Tesh turned back to Keo. Prepare a full decryption suite. I want to know who's collaborating and whether we can turn their own network against them. Behind them, the lab's holoconsole buzzed with data streams. Ghost station schematics, encrypted channel logs, and drift patterns. Humanity's master program, built upon centuries of rapid adaptation, analyzed and evolved on the fly. Soon, Tesh would know where the Triune Pact would make its deadly stand. 3. The fracturing empire on the shattered plains of Shirathi Prime. Whispers of the Marish's defeat bred dissent. In the Senate's marble halls, a faction led by Senator Krelos demanded vengeance. We cannot show weakness. He thundered. If our fleets cannot defeat a single frigate, how will we defend the homeworld? Opposing him, General Vathar spoke with calm authority. Your recklessness risked our entire frontier. We must assess, adapt our strategy, perhaps even negotiate. The human victory teaches us humility, not bloodlust. The chamber's tension crackled until the speaker banged his gavel. Debate adjourned. A fact-finding commission will report within the moon's cycle. Yet in private quarters, Vathra confided to her aide, the Triune Pact advances. We cannot pull out too much at stake. But we must temper aggression with unity. If the Gorn or Vicorians betray their purpose, we'll be overrun together. Her aide-eyes wide whispered, and if the humans offer an alliance? Vathra managed a tight smile. Then perhaps we accept, but only on our terms. Thus, within the Empire's halls, war and diplomacy wove a fragile tapestry. Every senator, general, and operative guessed at the humans' next move. None. Certain of their own got 4. The pact takes shape in the final days before the ambush. The leaders of the Triune Pact refined their plan at Hallowed Reach, an abandoned mining outpost cloaked by nebular gas. The air was thick with ionized particles, and plasma lamps cast erratic shadows on rusted walls. Here, Gorn engineers calibrated modified disintegrator arrays. Vicorian code samplers tested warp scramble pulses, and Ublar neurotech specialists embedded synaptic dampeners. Every technology converged, a treacherous hybrid designed to overwhelm the Aegis defenses, paralyze her crew, and annihilate her power core in one swift strike. Senator Jar surveyed the preparations with grim satisfaction. When they distress, Beacon lures them in. They will come with only a frigate and 2 corvettes, confident, unaware. Then he raised a clenched fist. The trap springs. Beside him, Rowleth adjusted the targeting grid. Our stealth corvettes will jam. Communications. Only I and my Vicorian pilots know the frequencies. They'll be blind, deaf, and outnumbered. Relax added quietly. And once they fall, the full might of the Triune Pact fleet will emerge. We deliver the death blow to this human menace. Yet, in the back corridors, a small band of dissidents plotted betrayal. A Gorn technician, a Vicorian analyst, and an Oblar informant, each secretly in contact with Captain Tesh, prepared to send her the ambush coordinates. They believed that the galaxy's true strength lay not in destruction, but in unity against a common threat, a war that would consume them all if it began. 5. Veils of deceit and hope on the eve of battle. The Aegis of Sol drifted just beyond the Perseus Rift, its hull bathed in starlight. Captain Tesh stood on the bridge, gazing ahead at swirling nebular gas. "Ready the corvettes," she ordered. "We'll respond to the distress signal, but maintain battle stations. I want shields throttled to maximum, and every torpedo tube loaded." Lieutenant Jane Hans nodded. "Aye, Captain." Thermal signatures show 3 cruisers and Stasis Ghost Station long-range readings match. And incoming encrypted message. Tesh's brow arched. "Patch it through." A garbled transmission crackled. Then, in a calm female voice, "Captain, Tesh, this is Sinali of the Vicorian Consulate. The distress beacon is a trap. Coordinates to ambush in 043 sector. Trust no one in the Triune Pact. I've risked everything to send this. Good luck." The bridge fell silent. Janin swallowed. "Captain, this could be a ploy." Tesh's eyes hardened. "Perhaps. But if there's even a sliver of truth, we can't walk blindly into annihilation. Lieutenant, adjust course to 043 sector, but keep a 20-second warp buffer. If anything goes wrong, rip the sublight engines and disengage instantly." As Tesh turned back to the viewport, the nebula's colors seemed to shift no longer. A curtain of concealment, but a mask of peril. In the coming hours, humanity would test the very limits of its adaptability against a coalition forged in fear. The fates of billions now hinged on secrets whispered in dark chambers and on Captain Tesh's conviction that even in the most veiled of threats, hope and ingenuity could prevail. The Perseus Rift shimmered like a fractured mirror, its warped subspace currents twisting starlight into pale streaks of silver and violet. Captain Mara Tesh watched the display as the Aegis of Sol glided into position, escort corvettes flanking, her in tight formation. Behind them, hidden by the nebular haze, lay the Triune Pact's Trap 8 hybrid cruisers waiting to strike. Distress beacon signal locked. Lieutenant Jennings confirmed, voice taut with anticipation. A light frequency, but anomalous encryption layers. Clearly designed to lure and ensnare. Tesh nodded. As expected. Maintain approach at minimal warp. Shields at full standby. Torpedo tubes, online mag series, and plasma torps both ready. We engage only if provoked. Below decks, Chief Engineer Hayashi oversaw the power grid's rerouting. "Captain, fusion reactors are at peak output. We've diverted 20% more power to shields, and Impulse Helm reports we can outmaneuver anything they throw." "At us." "Excellent," Tesh replied. "Prepare the Helix Pulse Array for immediate deployment. I want that on standby for my command." In the star-speckled darkness ahead, the 3 corvettes drifted into position around the designated sector, their sensor drones sweeping for hidden mines or ambush drones. Each corvette's Captain Lieutenant Arshun, Commander Vale, and Lieutenant. Commander Isidore knew the stakes. A misstep here meant annihilation. Then, as if on cue, the vacuum broke with a twisted burst of static and distortion. The fake distress beacon flared to life, an image of a crippled merchant vessel reenacting its final moments. The corvette slowed to investigate. "Visual confirmation," Arjun reported. But before he could finish, the hybrid cruisers sprang from hiding. They erupted in a symphony of war. Disintegrator beams lanced toward the corvette's shields. Tachyon mines spilled into the void. Synaptic dampeners pulsed, scrambling sensor locks and jamming channels. Ambush. "All hands to battle stations." Tesh's voice cut through the alarms. "Helm, evasive maneuvers standard weave. Fire torpedoes at bearing 052. The Aegis banked hard, thrusters blazing. Plasma torpedoes arced off her bow, detonating. Against cruiser hulls with molten fury, carving gashes through reinforced plating. On either flank, corvettes returned fire mag pulse cannons, ripping into the packed stealth corvettes. tearing them from within by overwhelming their quantum dampeners. But the enemy's retaliation was fierce. A barrage of disintegrator beams hammered the Aegis shields to 70%. One cruiser, its quantum splice arrays glowing malevolently, unleashed a low-frequency pulse that rattled the human frigate's core. Warning klaxons blared. Bulkheads trembled. Primary shields dropping, cried Tactical Officer Janans. We can't hold this long. Tesh's eyes narrowed with steely determination. Divert all remaining power to forward shields. Chief Engineer, channel reserve capacitors to the notches. Overcharge them if you must. Hayashi's fingers flew across her console. Power. Arcs crackled as reserve grids fed the shields. The dome flared white-hot, absorbing the next volley with only a juddering shudder. Now, Tesh whispered into her mic. Helix pulse array, activate. Beneath the Aegis hull, the ancient experimental weapon hummed to life. A spiral of coalesced Takin and plasma energy burst forth, wrapping around the nearest packed cruiser. The twist of power ripped at the enemy's shields from within, tearing them apart at the molecular level. The cruiser's reactor went critical. It imploded in a silent flare, leaving only drifting debris. On the bridge, the crew exhaled sharply, but there was no time for relief. 3 cruisers bore down, weapons primed for another strike. Yet in that instant, the nebula's gloom flickered, as dozens of points of light coalesced into human warp signatures. Admiral Constantine's fleet jumping in, Jane Hens announced, awe coloring his tone. Over 100 vessels, destroyers, cruisers, carriers. Captain Tesh allowed herself a brief, triumphant smile. Welcome, Admiral. The corridor is contested. We'll hold them here. The carrier's hangars erupted as waves of fighters, and bombers surged into the fray. Swarms of winged Valkyrian interceptors cut through the Pax corvettes, their pulse cannons shredding stealth fields. Capital ships pitched broadsides, unleashing mega cannon salvos that lit up the nebula. Like supernova, under the concentrated fire, 2 more hybrid cruisers fell, their fusion cores breaching spectacularly. The remaining packed vessels, sensing the turning tide, attempted to warp away. But the human fleet's carriers launched specialized disruptor pods, sealing the jump points with collapsing wormholes. Trapped, their courses set in stone, the last 3 cruisers faced the full might of the United Earth Fleet. Torpedoes and laser volleys converged on the flankers. Fighter squadrons dove through point defense arrays to detonate breaching charges against armored hulls. In minutes, the Triune Pack's ambush force became a smoldering wreck, an ossuary of shattered hopes. On the Aegis bridge, Tesh looked out as the debris field drifted in silent testimony. Status report. Enemy force neutralized. Janes confirmed. Allied losses minimal. 2 corvettes sustaining light damage. No casualties. Tesh exhaled. Secure the area. Rescue any survivors for interrogation. And patch me through to diplomatic command. Moments later, Admiral Constantine's hologram appeared. His stern features softened with pride. Captain, you and the Aegis have done humanity proud. The Pack's threat is ended. Shall we commence liberation protocols for affected systems? Tesh stood at attention. Yes, Admiral. Notify all coalition worlds. Peace and membership are offered first. But any who oppose the Unity Accord will face the same resolve. As the Admiral's fleet reconfigured into peacekeeping formations, Captain Tesh walked to the viewport. Beyond the shattered hulls, the nebula's mists glowed with the first light of a new dawn. From the ruins of ambush emerged a vision of unity. Human resolve not only had withstood the greatest challenge of the sector, it had forged an opportunity for lasting peace. And as the Aegis of Soul sailed for the next horizon, her captain carried with her the knowledge that humanity's true strength lay not just in weapons or ships, but in the unbreakable spirit that refused to surrender, even in the darkest rifts of space.